go somewhere new. And I try to crack this iceberg open till it shatters through the ocean. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. Gonna move the ocean current till the waves flood what's been burning. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. And I know I'm only getting higher till it feels like I can walk through fire. And I know I'm only getting higher till it feels like I can walk through fire. Trying to step back and see the view from above, 'cause I know that nothing lasts forever. And I try to crack this iceberg open till shatters through the ocean. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. Gonna move the ocean current till the waves flood what's been burning. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you.
Welcome, one and all, to the Apollo Racing Club iRacing Indycar Season 5. This is, I believe, the first time ARC has been broadcasting iRacing. You are going to be joined tonight by myself, Keegan Scott, otherwise known as Keegabyte on the internet, and I am joined tonight by my amazing co-caster, Will. How are you doing tonight, my good man?
I'm doing great tonight, Keegan. How about yourself?
I am doing fantastic. First time seeing some of this ARC action here from the booth, and what a track for our first round of the season. It is COTA here, and on a bit of a lukewarm day for Southern Texas. At 23 degrees Celsius, it's not exactly the kind of blistering heat that you typically see from Austin during the summer. Typically, you'd be seeing upwards of 30 or 40 degrees Celsius, honestly. And that's going to leave the track a bit more grippy for these drivers as well. They're not going to really have to worry about sliding around too much. And we are underway with qualifying already here. We'll be notifying you on how that goes. But so, Will, let's let the folks at home know a little bit about your background here and why you are joining me in the booth tonight.
So, this is actually my first go at commentating any sort of esports or race. So it's a pleasure to be here. I actually got into this because I'm an engineer for Meyer-Shank Racing in Indycar. Going into my, I guess, first full season, but second season in the NTT Data IndyCar series. So I figured I'd give it a shot, see how commentating goes for me, and who doesn't love to watch racing, especially at such a great track, such as Circuit of the Americas here in Austin, Texas.
And a very tricky track as well. These drivers, they're going to be tested on all fronts. They're going to be, it's all about how fast you can cycle through the gears, getting back into the straights. That's where the most time is going to be able to be made up. And as well as testing your ability to flow through the S's and these incredibly sharp, greater than 180 degree turns that this track has. Kind of difficult to nail down the setup for this track.
Definitely a difficult track to get a setup for. You got a good balance between left and right turns here. The total of 20 corners here at COTA, but 11 of them being left, 9 right. You got to have a pretty balanced car, pretty symmetrical setup, which isn't bad for the engineers, but it does present a challenge for the driver. We'll see what they can do here in qualifying. Like we mentioned earlier, it is a pretty lukewarm day, but with a track temp of 34 degrees Celsius, I'm definitely interested to see how long it takes the tires to come in for the optimal lap time.
Honestly, it's about lukewarm, so you wouldn't be seeing this at like the typical time that we would see an IndyCar race take. You know, typically when IndyCar do race at COTA, it's usually around midsummer, so it's usually a lot hotter than that 34 degree track temp. We might see upwards of 40 or 50 for the track temp on those days. But it's going to be a bit slick here for the first probably lap, maybe even 2, depending on how much these drivers are putting into the corners and seeing how much risk they're taking trying to get those tires warmed up. And we do have a group qualifying here today, format that a lot of these drivers were not expecting, but they are ready for. And I believe we have David McCoy out to the pole position, provisional pole at least, and with a purple first sector as well.
Got a good exit there out of turn 11 onto the back stretch.
This is a crucial backstretch to nail too, and this is exactly one of the things I meant about. It's really a balancing act in terms of setup. You want to get enough downforce to carry you through the S's and through these sharp turns as well as through the incredibly challenging quadruple apex that we'll see McCoy come up to here in just a moment. But you also don't want to have too much downforce that you're limiting your top speed down these very long straights.
Yeah, the exit is definitely highly crucial there out of 11, and it's going to be the same thing out of 20, of course, going down the pit straight. Ooh, looks like he almost loses it a bit there.
Might have actually cost him a little bit of time, but I don't think he's going to care too much as he still has provisional pole. Let's see if he can improve on his 146.17, and he does by a healthy margin, 145.8 for David McCoy. Purple in 2 sectors there. So Dupont will actually come out with a top time as well, 145.3. That's actually 3 seconds better than David's time. Oh no, sorry, 4/10 better. Mix up my 5s and my 8s there. like only a few more drivers waiting to finish up. I believe we do have 9 drivers in this contest, only 7 of them, 8 of them now, actually in the lobby. They'll be joining us later on. I believe it's a 10-minute qualifying session. I know I'd have to confirm with our admins on that one, but qualifying will probably be coming to an end here shortly. Bit of a spin in the S's, and like we were talking about, that's one of the most technical parts of this track, is being able to actually make through the S's and still retain your speed going into that, like, not exactly long stretch, but it's not short either. You definitely have a good flat out section there to make it back into turn, I believe that's 7, the
Right.
backstretch.
Right. Coming out of turn 1, you of course want to get a good exit to build up some speed going down the S's, and the S's are really turns 2 through turn 9, so it's quite a bit of a stretch there. You want to be able to carry that speed out of 1 all the way through the S's, but at the same time keep the car in good balance so you don't spin it like we've seen here a couple times in qualifying.
Yeah, and in practice too, we had some drivers really gunning it into the S's and trying to get whatever time they could, but they just ended up not quite being able to handle the car the whole way, and I believe one has face planted into the wall as we see the tire rolling. It's always a comedic view. But folks at home, 34 laps for this event today. 32 laps for this event today. I keep messing that up. 14 lap fuel window. It's going to be a 2-stopper unless someone gets really, really tricky with it and they try to go for a really long fuel stretch. It's doable, but when you're trying to traverse the elevation changes here at COTA, in addition to having to fuel save, that's never an optimal situation to be in.
No, especially not. I don't think there's enough downhill here, or at least steep downhill, to save enough fuel to make up for the fuel that's going to be burned on the end of the pit straight headed up towards 1. We'll see how it happens, how it plays out. It's definitely going to be tight, though.
It brings up a lot of good questions as to when drivers are going to want to put that second pit stop in. I do expect to see them kind of trying to come in probably around lap 14, but then maybe we're going to see some short pits in the second cycle, or maybe even the first cycle, or like we previously said, one might try and go for the long one. But do you really think with how fast these IndyCar pit stops are that it would even be worth trying to go for that whole time to make up, 3 extra seconds?
No, I definitely think the undercut will be stronger given the speed of these pit stops and the smaller field tonight. So I would expect to see a few drivers pit early, definitely during the first sequence. It all depends on tire wear, though, right? How can you conserve tires? Depends where your fuel is at, if anyone is on that fuel save strategy. Given if people are going to go flat out the whole time, I definitely see people pitting early, though.
Yeah, and then you've got to count into the fact as well that they do have to use both sets of tires tonight. And I believe, qualifying is at an end. Joseph Dupont, his qualifying time holds up with a 1:45.35. He will have that pole position, followed by David McCoy, then G.A. James and Matthew Woolley Fry rounding out the top 4. Followed up by Tyler Ryan, MLG God, our admin here tonight. QQ Tank and Hallucinogen finished the top 8. FH Throttle and Comrade Question in 9th and 10th. Neither one of those drivers put up a qualifying time. And Hero and Yes. I can't believe I just said that on a stream.
Well, what I will say and what I've noticed from this is it's pretty shocking that there's almost a 2-second gap between the front row and second row, so I would expect to see them take off here a little bit at the beginning of the race, unless they get after it a little bit, get wheel to wheel through turn 1.
We do have a rolling start here, as is the case with IndyCar. Oh, Ja is Jaw. Okay, that makes sense.
Jaw, just like XXX Tentacion.
And it does look like most of the front runners are opting to go with the primary compound up front. I believe everybody's actually taking the primary compound up front. Yes, they are. So it's going to be, do they want to use, it's going to be primary for the first stretch, and then I'm going to guess they're going to take alternates for both of the second stints. Do you think that means that they won't be short pitting too hard on that third stint, and that they'll just try and go for like a middling run? Because they're going to have they're going to have probably like 18 laps after the first fuel window. So do you think we'll see them coming in after like 8 or 9?
I think at the first window you're going to see guys come in as early as lap 9 or 10, given that they're starting on the primary tires, going to wear out a little bit quicker, a little bit of a harder compound. Wear out a little later. So you might see them pit more towards the end of the window, 14, 15. But yes, I do see them taking sort of a mid-range pit in those second and third sequences. Let's see what happens here.
You've heard it from the engineer himself. We're about to get underway. They're going around turn 20. They see the green flag. The leader has the ability to start it. And there he will. Starts it a little bit late. Is he blinking a little bit? Yes, he is. Lights are on, and away we go for the first race of the Apollo Racing Club IndyCar Season 5. Bunch it up into turn 1. Got to keep it clean for the first part, and they all do for the most part. I don't think I saw any incidents pop up on our screens. Everybody's going to straighten it out in a single file going through the S's. Said our leaders had a 2-second lead, at least in the early going. Wow, David Mccoy already opening a 4/10 gap over Joseph Dupont. Those two actually already have a second over third place in Games.
Like I said after qualifying, I kind of envisioned the first two guys taking off a little bit from the field, but I think David ended up taking the reins in this one after getting a better exit from turn 1. Dupont went a little inside early.
Ooh, we did have a little bit of an we did have a little bit of an incident up front, looks like. Ooh, going into turn 9, and yeah, he just locked it up and got into the 11. 11's day is probably done. 75 might need some repairs as well. That's a hallucinogen.
Well, from my little bit of experience so far in IndyCar, I can tell you can't drive too well on 3 wheels.
No. Usually not, at least. But fun fact, you can drive on 3 wheels if you're Lewis Hamilton.
And if you're Max Verstappen, you can drive with 1 wheel on Lewis's head.
Oh, no. Careful, my neck hurts thinking about it already. Already a 2-second gap opened up to third. The two leaders duking it out up front. They are still close together, too. Can we see the front? It's going to be pretty much a battle between these two the whole time. And if Dupont is still running behind McCord, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for an undercut, even on this first stint.
That's definitely something to look towards, but I think that middle of the pack range from P4 through P7, you're really going to see an undercut. I think these guys are going to try and make something happen. They're driving in a lot of traffic here, all within a second of each other. I would not be shocked if at least 2 of them try and pit early to get a little bit of open track, make up some time, and then when they come out of the pit sequence, make up time. The other guys in front of them will have to pit, and hopefully they can come out in front of them.
Looks like J.A. Games might even end up kind of playing his, or just kind of running his own race. He's got a second ahead of P4 and is about 4 seconds back from P2. He might just end up running his own race the whole time. And I mean, hey, every point matters here. It's a full season points. Just every point matters. Fast lap for David McCourt, too. on lap 3. And that tracks with about what we were expecting. A bit of a lukewarm day here in Austin, Texas. And probably we're going to take a lap or 2 for the tires to warm up. And that's exactly what we expected.
That gap between Dupont and JA Games keeps opening up a little bit. It's about a second and a half a lap. So I think you're right. I think JA Games is going to end up running a little bit of his own race here. He's going to have to hold off MLG God a little bit.
Oh, is this a battle for the lead? Is Dupont going to make a move here going into 9? No, he's going to let it off.
But he does get a pretty good exit. We'll see what he can do with the toe here on the back stretch. Headed down towards turn 12. I'd be shocked to see him try and make a move here.
That would be a very gutsy move if he tried to do it. No, but he is going to get right up behind McCoy. Let him know he's there. He is in his tire prints right there.
We should see something interesting here in 16.
McCoy overdrove that corner a little bit. Dupont a little bit too far back to take advantage of that. Out of the quadruple apex, getting ready to go into turns 19 and 20. A little bit of a tidbit here, folks. We have instilled a 17x warning penalty tonight due to that turn 19 runoff. Circuit of the Americas here it's one of those tracks that's very notorious for playing liberal with the runoff areas. And we have instilled a bit of a preventative measure for that.
He's getting right up on him here down through the S's. Maybe he can carry a little bit of speed, get something on him there, and probably the tightest corner in this sector being turn 9. But I think by the time we get around to turn 11, it's going to be pretty close. We might see a move here up the inside by Dupont.
It does seem like Dupont is really good in the second and third sectors, but McCoy really runs away with it in 1 and 4, which doesn't surprise me. Those were the sectors that he purpled in qualifying. No move being made by Dupont there. Oh, he did try to do a little bit of an undercut, but ends up just losing time there.
Well, the gap is opening up a little bit. I didn't think McCoy got that great of an exit out of 11, but it looks like he's beating him in the drag race down the back stretch.
He's also just making sure that Dupont can't really stay in his toe. Did Dupont kind of lose it a little bit coming out of that turn? I think he did. Or sorry, McCoy lost it. Dupont is right up on him again.
He's back right at 2/10 behind McCoy.
These two are running nearly identical laps at this point, too. We're gonna... I believe we do actually have a little bit of an incident here. Jaw. Looks like he had issues on that turn entry coming off the backstretch.
Into 12, and he just locks it up a little bit.
Yeah, just send it a bit wide. No crash, no damage from Jaw, but... well, maybe. We haven't finished this replay yet. Okay, Jaw, yeah, just a little bit of a lockup there. We did see him having a couple issues off the start, so maybe a sign of things to come for him.
And that gap between McCoy and Dupont is still tight.
It hasn't really changed meaningfully, honestly. Dupont is still right up in the toe and able to take advantage of it if McCoy gives it to him. Ooh. So close. Things have kind of settled in back through the field. Everybody getting about a 1 second gap of each other. No massive changes yet. I wonder what happened to Hallucinogen, though. He wasn't... I feel like he dropped back quite a lot.
Well, he was involved in that incident earlier in the race.
Oh, right. Oh, is this what we saw? This is a replay of David McCoy. He had issues coming off of turn, what is that, turn 11? Oh, he had a minor spin and caught it. We've been seeing him have issues coming off of that backstretch the entire day. Now Dupont has gapped him by 1.3 seconds.
And that gap is slowly opening up as we speak. I think McCoy got a little bit of heat in his tires there, struggling to get back in a rhythm. Starting to close it down slightly.
You can see Dupont kind of going a little bit wide on the exit there too of 1, just to make sure McCoy can't keep up with him. So we're about halfway through this fuel stint, and well, at the end of the next lap we will be. How early do you think these guys might undercut some of their competition?
I wouldn't be surprised if we see Wally Free, Matthew, there in P5, pit a little bit early. He's right behind MLG guy. It'd be a good opportunity for him to undercut, get that pit sequence in early, get some open track, try and make up some ground with some fresh rubber, and see if he can come out of turn 1 before MLG God beats him out. So keep an eye on Matthew there. I don't really see an opportunity for anybody else to pit early. Maybe MLG God will, to try and kind of take that same strategy on JA Games, but I'm not quite sure. That gap is about a second there, so it's possible. I don't think JA Games is really holding him up enough for that undercut to be, I guess, the greatest idea, but it also does depend on how his tires are feeling, where he's holding up. But he gets a little off balance there in that braking zone, so it's very possible he doesn't really like these primary tires heated up, and he kind of wants to go to the softer compound and see if he can make up some pace in the rest of the field.
At the same time, though, you would kind of expect you'd want to extend the primary tires, right? Because the alternates, they're going to fall off a lot quicker, and that's when you'd want to kind of take the undercut. So you might see this full run on this on this first stint at least.
Well, it is possible, but given that it's probably a 3-stopper, very tight 2-stopper, you don't necessarily have to run these hard tires the full stint, get the full use out of them. You could still run 2 full stints on the softer alternate compound and probably be fine. It might be worth it. It just really depends on your track position. It could really be worth it to make up that time on those softer tires if you're in traffic. But given that it's such a tight 2-stopper that I don't think we'll see it. People will go 3 stops. You won't have to run as long on those reds if you're doing 3 stops.
True.
I think he still might undercut.
It's going to be about how soon is he willing to undercut it. Trying to get underneath MLG God right now is Matthew, but MLG God has been not letting him do too much of it. He's close enough to get a little bit of a toe. At this point, it might just be dirty air.
And that toe for Matthew there might be the tell-all on whether or not he pits. If he stays in the toe of MLG God and MLG God stays out, he's probably going to continue to stay out with him, because that time made up in the toe is going to be relatively similar to the new tires, especially when they're both on the same tires at the same stage in their stint. I think we'll see them pit at the same time. I think Matthew will go in whenever MLG does.
That's, I believe, the point where you just kind of fake your entry and then stay out. At that
Right.
point, is it a long cut?
It could be. He could overcut it. I mean, an overcut isn't a terrible idea here, right? Because, like I said, it is a tight 2-stopper. You'll probably see a 3-stopper, and that really shortens up your last stint. Like, that 4th stint will be really short. You could be on the alternates and keep them pretty fresh throughout. You could make up some great pace and track position in that last stint there if you're on fresh reds.
AA Games. We said that he'd kind of run a bit of his own race today, and he definitely is. 3 seconds ahead of P4 and 30 seconds behind P2. I bet you he's just content to just kind of sit there and wait. He's in range.
He's camping it out.
He's in range if either of our leaders make a mistake.
Oh, definitely. Doesn't look like he's sliding around too much either, so you could see him overcut since he does have the open track there right now.
Back to this battle for P4. Just kind of keeping MLG God in his sights right now. I don't believe he wants to burn those tires off trying to get to him. Not now, at least. He's really tight to that corner.
MLG God?
Yeah, well, no, Matthew Rice. Well, both of them, honestly. Really tight to that first corner going. I don't know the corner names here, unfortunately, but he's really tight to that first one, when typically you see a lot of drivers take a much wider entry into that so they can get a better run into the quadruple apex.
Brakes a little bit late there. Gets a good run. He might have a good run down the S's here. Actually ends up losing a little bit of time.
He didn't quite get on the gas as early as you would expect there. Maybe he is trying to save tires. Oh, spin on the backstretch. Who was that? Was that David McCoy? FH throttle, never mind. He was, I believe, a lap down at this point. Oh, yep. It's so easy to hook it there.
Was that 7, I believe?
Yeah, I believe that was coming out of the last corner of the S's. So easy to hook it there. David McCoy. We saw him leading the early part of this race, and he is our pole setter, but got overtaken by Joseph Dupont after a bit of a minor spin. Now really struggling to keep up with that.
Yeah, that gap between Dupont and McCoy has opened up now to a little over 4 seconds. Given the fact that he spun, do you think McCoy could be pitting early here then?
Maybe. It depends on if his tires really got flat spotted. Of course, by this point, it would probably be worn down enough that it wouldn't matter. He might go for an early pit. We are approaching that point where we're getting close to a full fuel run.
I think we'll definitely see people start pitting here within the next 2 to 3 laps. So we'll make sure to keep a close eye here on that pit sequence and see what's going on track.
A little bit of a background on these two drivers, by the way. David McCoy and Joseph Dupont. A lot of people call them the aliens of the league. And they're definitely proving it here. Joseph seems to be a little bit better on this specific track. COTA is very, very tricky to say the least. Ooh, did Hallucinogen undercut? He did. Hallucinogen's in the pit. He is our first taker for this early pit window. And you said it, we might see some of those 4 through 7 drivers, 4 through 8 drivers come in and try and go for an early one. He did.
Definitely want to keep a close eye on Hallucinogen here once he comes out of the pits. Hopefully should have some open track space, make up a little bit of ground, but it looks like he's going to come out with some of the pack.
Gonna come in, I believe he's going to come in between Joseph and David. Or no, sorry, just behind David. Actually, he has a decent amount of ground to make up, or to between him and JA Games, who is P3 behind him. Whoa, we have a driver off in turn 9. If that is MLG God, actually. No, it's Jaw. He's been having trouble all day.
And it's been in that same turn there, too. In that corner, he seems to be struggling to find out exactly where that braking zone is, locking it up a little bit, getting a little bit loose on exit.
Comrade question now. I believe he's actually... Is this battle for position? Is that Possum in front of him?
It is.
Yes, it is a battle for position, so... Who's gonna go for the undercut? Who's gonna try and extend this run? Especially coming up to the pit strategy here. If Comrade can get by Possum before he has to pit, that'll be a huge boost for him. The field is starting to tighten up a little bit now, especially in that 3 through 5 range. They are all within 3 seconds of each other.
I think that 3 through 5 range is going to be a little bit of follow the leader here in this pit sequence.
We did predict a little bit of fanciness, a little bit of trickiness from these drivers. Potentially going for undercuts on each other, trying to trick each other out.
I mean, honestly, if I'm Matthew sitting here in P5, a second behind MLG God in P4, I'm pitting early. I'm getting on those fresh tires. I'm coming out with clear track position, trying to make up some ground and beat him out of his pit box.
Hallucinogen pit a second time. That's... Maybe he took the wrong tires in the first one. Easy to do here on iRacing.
That battle for P4 is within half a second now.
Ooh, 2 tenths. See if Matthew can finally overtake MLG God. He's been working on him for a while. He's going to take the wing off. He lost it. And then he gets it right back because iRacing. Netcode, yay.
I think it looked like he braked a little too deep there, and in order to save both of their races, he just kind of swerved out of the way. Let's take a look at this replay here.
Yeah, no reason to take yourself and MLG God out of the race. He did lose that wing.
He does take it out.
And then it just gets snapped right back on. Yep. Yay, netcode. And he does still have that weight. No damage to it at all either. Now I think we see him probably, what do you think? See him undercut a little bit here by a lap?
I mean, if I were in his position, I would, right? Like, they just got very tight in that corner. Their tires aren't fresh anymore. A little bit worn out.
No,
we see MLG pit, and Matthew does not follow him in. Late in the stint, on worn tires, he's going to try and make up track position. I would be shocked if Matthew comes out of this pit sequence ahead of MLG God here, honestly. Kind of a shocking move from MLG to see him pit before.
Well, now Matthew just has to try for the overcut here. I don't know how low he is on fuel, how much he's been conserving. See if maybe he can go for that 15th lap. It's going to be close. Because he was battling MLG God pretty hard there.
I mean, all I can think is MLG God kind of wanted to take a conservative look at this race. He didn't want someone right on his tail the whole time. He didn't want to have to burn up tires defending, and he didn't want to risk an incident that could take both of them out. That's really all I can think of for him to undercut the guy behind him.
Now it's whether Matthew is going to want to try and go for the over. Is Matthew saving fuel right now? Let's see from his perspective. I want to see what we're seeing from his view. Oh, yes, he is a little bit. He's getting on the gas a little bit later.
I think you're right. He could be going for a two-stopper, but he's getting a little bit of understeer here.
Well, two-stopper would be the normal one. 32 lap into 14 lap pit window.
It would still be tight. You got to do a little bit of fuel save to make that happen.
Don't forget, everyone at home, these aren't full-length races. IndyCar here, I believe, does 45 laps, I think, is what they did here last time. This one being a 32-lapper. COTA's a long track. That's a lot longer than you might expect. Tyler Ryan is in the pits.
COTA is definitely...
Yeah, go ahead.
COTA is definitely one of the longer tracks here in the series at 3.427 miles. So it's quite a bit longer than anything else you'll see in the series. In the real IndyCar series, I believe it could very well be the longest. Road America is definitely up there with it, though.
Did someone just spin out on one? There's a bit of smoke there. Okay. Apparently, graphic is just telling us things. Leaders both pitting now. Both Dupont and McCoy are in the pits. No undercuts or overcuts there, and that's exactly what we expected. They completed 14, and then they come in to get the new tires and to get the full of fuel.
This is going to be interesting here to see who comes out.
Oh, did McCoy overshoot? No. Weird graphical bug, I guess. Wait a minute. Did Dupont roll off with primaries?
I didn't quite catch it. It looks like he did.
DuPont's on primaries. Oh, that's going to be a huge slip-up. McCoy's fast.
Yeah, but we could see DuPont trying to stretch this here. A little bit of fuel save, trying to run it to the end. It's very possible.
That's indeed possible. Ooh. That would be a tricky... That would be a tricky piece of strategy, wouldn't it? Do you think McCoy recognizes that he's on primaries yet?
No, but he will in about 7 laps. He's going to catch him pretty quickly here.
Yeah, he is, because he's on those alternates. Maybe DuPont's going to try for a one-stopper, send it to the end from here. Can we see from DuPont's perspective real quick? See if he is potentially saving fuel. Because he's going to have to save this whole time pretty much. No, he's just running it smooth right now. He did shift up into fourth there, which is that's not exactly what you'd expect, but he's saving a little bit.
Yeah, I think come lap 2 or 3 of the stint, he's going to back off a little bit, save a little bit of fuel. He's building that gap up a little bit right now, or keeping it steady. He'll fall off. We'll see a battle.
That's, I believe, a 5-second gain for David McCoy, including pit stops, actually. Whoa, what? Did he just... He spun out on one. What happened to McCoy? Oh, no. The turn 1 curse at COTA. Tires a little bit cold. Not quite gripping down as hard as you want. Going over that lip, too. You get those negative Gs. Right when the G-forces started to go the opposite direction, boom, he lost it.
Yeah, that car just snapped. He took a little bit too much speed into the corner. it didn't really look like he locked up the brakes there, and then he tried a little bit of an early apex, and the car just snapped and swung out on him. This is obviously very good for Joseph Dupont. Even though he's on the hard tires, he's going to be able to make those last a lot longer now. He's not going to have to build up some sort of gap. I think we'll see him drive pretty conservatively.
Now, if he wasn't thinking about trying to extend the stint, he is 100%.
I don't think he'll pit again.
I don't think he will either. I mean, at this point, if you just run it clean from here out, you basically have the win. Well, he's actually just run our fastest lap of the race so far. 147.7.
He's got clean air, and that was, I believe, his first hot lap on those primary tires. Am I
yeah, I
correct on
believe
that?
so. Yeah. Taking a look back through the field here, Matthew Rice is into the pits. Is this his first stop? Or is he just going for a severe undercut? Is he going to try and go for it?
It is his first stop. He was running P5 behind MLG God. He went for the massive overcut, and it looks like he's going to make this on one stop.
One stopper for Matthew Rice. Let's see if it pays off, because I think he's on the same strategy as Dupont. Let's go look at that pit window again, because I think we see everybody now should be on the second stint. No. Okay, well, Matthew Rice hasn't updated yet. Jaw in question, still not on stint 2. I believe they just pitted, though.
Question has just now entered the pit lane.
Jaw is still going.
Jaw has made a stop.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Jaw made a stop on lap 15.
Yep.
Little bit of an overcut. Just a small one. Huge overcut from question, though. But he's still a lap down.
Might not matter as we come towards the end if he has that much of it. Like we were saying, though, in IndyCar, the overcut, and especially here with how fast the pit stops are compared to the overall lap time, it's not really worth trying to go for an extreme overcut or trying to run out the rest of the time on 15 to 17 laps when a typical fuel window is 14.
I mean, you're exactly right. I think the only time the overcut pays off is if you've been on fuel save in that prior stint and if your tires are still in a good spot.
We have an issue coming out of the pits for question. Really tight going into one. He just stopped. Just held off because he recognized that the other one on the outside was locking him up.
Question could make up some time, though. He could find himself in P8 here in 14 laps at the checker with that overcut. He put on the alternates. He should have some good pace. And my mistake earlier saying 2 and 3 stops, I meant 1 and 2.
All good. You're used to full-length races.
I am used to full-length races.
Rather than half-length.
That's correct. It's a lot less stressful when you don't have to figure out the fuel windows and you don't have to tell somebody when to pit. I'll tell you that.
Race strategy engineer. Not your title, I'm guessing?
Not exactly. I was a DAG engineer for the final 6 races of this past IndyCar season. Kind of an assistant, just shadowing, learning everything. Had people showing me the ropes. And now I'm assistant engineer, and I'll get to do a little bit of fuel strategy this upcoming season, so I'm pretty excited for that.
Maybe you can use iRacing as a learning tool.
Very possible. The old team I worked on, actually, the head race engineer for an Indy Lights car, he was a mechanic his entire life, got into sim racing, started to learn a little bit about how to set up open wheelers, a little bit of F3, a little bit of Indycar, more so F3, and actually made his way to becoming a race engineer in the road to Indy on the Indy Lights team. So I thought that was a pretty cool story, that he never went to school for engineering. He never did any sort of race engineering other than iRacing, and went from a mechanic to being the head race engineer of an open wheeler.
MLG God, is that his second pit stop? Yes, it is, and he's going to try and go for the full thing. He's on a massive undercut here. He's going to try and go for the rest. On primaries as well.
That's honestly a pretty shocking move to put on the primaries there.
I mean, we have what? 14 laps? We're on lap 19. Oh, now we're on lap 20. He's in danger of going a lap down pretty shortly, in fact. We have 13 laps remaining.
Did he pit on lap 13 and put on alternates? Or was he the one that stayed on blacks?
No, the one who stayed on primaries was Matthew, I believe.
I think you're right. With that big overcut, I think he wanted to stay out.
Tyler Ryan, I believe he's... Is that MLG God behind him? No, that's McCoy behind him? No, it's FH Throttle. So, yeah, this is not for position here. There's these guys coming out and competing against, two aliens in the way of Dupont and McCoy. These guys are absolutely nuts. Strategy might be the only way to get a leg over him, and that's why we're seeing MLG God and Matthew go for these incredible undercuts and overcuts. Meanwhile, it looks like Dupont and McCoy, they're just going to rely on their wheel to do the talking.
And here you see Dupont falling off a little bit to McCourt. That's because Dupont stayed on the black primaries and McCourt is on those red alternates. He's going to make up a bit of a gap, but he's probably going to burn through those tires, and he's definitely not saving fuel, making up time. McCourt is likely going to have to pit again before the end of this race. I see him going back on reds.
Ooh.
Here he goes.
Oh,
in the
here
pit
he goes. McCourt in for his second stop. Might go for the reds again. How is DuPont going to respond to this?
My assumption with that fall off in the gap between DuPont and McCourt is DuPont was fuel saving. He's on the blacks. He can run a little bit longer on those tires. If he goes the rest of the length of this race without stopping, of course, he'll come away P1. If he doesn't, this undercut could be huge. The problem with these short races, though, is you really only get one chance at strategy, right? You can't undercut once. If it doesn't work out, then overcut again. You get one shot at it.
David McCourt now has 30 seconds to make up to DuPont. And he has to do it on the same tires as well. He opted not to take the alts, instead going for the primaries. And as a reminder, every driver does have to use both sets. Actually, that puts DuPont in a really bad position. I don't think he started with primaries.
You're right. He did.
He has to pit again.
He does, but he might just take a splash of fuel here. He's probably going to pit late. Late meaning lap 26 or so. I think if he does that, he can take a splash of fuel, and then he'll put on the reds, and he'll pretty much have optimal reds for the rest of the race. But that gap is going to close up pretty quick, of course, when he pits. It's honestly going to end up being a race out of the pit box for Joseph Dupont.
That would be a heck of an ending to watch. He's actually putting more gap onto McCourt as well. Bit of a wiggle coming out of turn 20. That gap now significantly less than it was. Jaw coming in again. Is this his second stop?
It is.
Yes, this is his second stop. Wait, MLG when did he pit a third time? I'm confused.
I did not know he pit a third time.
Did he have a pass-through? Jaw had a pass-through penalty. Oh, no. Maybe he exceeded that 17X?
It's very possible. He was getting pretty loose early on in the race, down the backstretch into 12. I don't know where Possum is at on track, but that gap between John and Possum could end up getting pretty close in a battle for P7 here.
We'll have to keep an eye on that as that develops, but that gives MLG God basically a free top 6. Might be able to get his lap back depending on how the leaders play their strategy from here on out, too. So far, though, the pit strategy seems to be working out for Dupont, as he is putting more time over McCoy at the moment. Now, 8 tenths per lap. McCoy actually spun it a little bit, so he is actually going to lose a little bit more time.
And that helps Dupont quite a bit, given that he's going to have to make another stop here to put on the alternate tires.
Hopefully he does recognize that he is going to have to use those. Real quick here, while we have a bit of a lull in the action, we'd like to give a shout out to Driver 61, who is sponsoring the Apollo Racing Club for this iRacing season. If you go over to the Driver 61 store, we do have a promo code for you. That promo code is, if I can find it, ARC Driver 61. That's a capital A, capital R, capital C, capital D, Driver 61. Thank you very much, Driver 61, for sponsoring ARC for the season.
And how did that gap open up by another 10 seconds? Oh, here we go.
Was there another spin by McCoy? Coming out of turn 20, yes! Full spin, that's going to be an additional 2x for him, too. Considering how many spins we've seen from him today, he might be nearing that 17x threshold.
I mean, here's the deal, right? He's got quite the gap between himself and JA Games, right? So he's just trying to get on it flat out. He's at 12x now, but he's on it flat out to try and make up a little bit of time to Dupont. I'm not sure if David McCoy knows Dupont will need to pit again, but if he does, and if he can keep it clean, he might give it a good run.
He might not recognize that Dupont does have to pit, but he just has to keep it close. If he doesn't think that he needs to pit, he's at least going to know that Dupont is going to fall off pretty heavily towards the latter part of this race.
That is for sure, but he's definitely hurt himself here. He's lost 20 seconds to Dupont since his last pit.
Meanwhile, Joseph Dupont, let's take a look from his view for a lap around Circuit of the Americas. I believe he's just getting done with the S's now.
And it looks like he's starting to get a little bit loose.
Ever so slightly. He just needs to keep it steady from here on out, and he's basically got the P1 for free, assuming he comes in for his second stop.
Down into first gear into turn 11. Gets a decent exit out of 11. Little bit of slip.
He's short shifting too. He is saving fuel. He doesn't really need to, though, because he does need to come in for that second stop.
Yeah, but like I said, I think he's going to try and save as much time in that pit box as he can and just take a splash of fuel. He doesn't really necessarily need to go full fuel, right? He's got a 52-second gap behind. If he saves a little bit of fuel, he takes less, saves more time in the pit lane, he's still going to come out with a solid gap. I think you're going to see him pit here within the next lap or two, though.
You estimate a lap 26. Dupont's about to start lap 25. No, definitely not pitting for this one, but
my money's still on lap 26.
Your money's on lap 26, huh? Because you did say that way 6 laps gets the full use out of those reds at their absolutely best time. He is starting to lose a little bit of time to Mccoy, but with 52 seconds, you know, half a second here and there doesn't matter anymore. Dupont has his race in the bag so long as he keeps it clean. What are the lap times looking like here?
David McCoy falling off a little bit.
Oh my. David McCoy actually back by 2 seconds almost per lap. That means Dupont's still lapping at the 147.8 range. That's close to the fastest lap of the race, which he currently holds. As you see, that gap over the last few laps has just been growing and growing steadily. It's Dupont's to lose now.
That's lap 26.
Lucinogen in the pit again. I think he did get to the 17X. What's he on in terms of incidents here? Okay, he might actually be DQ'd at this point. Not sure what our DQ is. He's on 35X. Oh no, he can't be DQ'd, otherwise Throttle would be as well. It's a lot of incidents for this race.
I'm honestly surprised by that. I'm not sure if it has to do with a little bit of a cooler track or what, but they haven't really been racing in traffic at all.
MLG got in the pits again. He might have actually hit that 17X.
On his 4th stop.
He's not really battling for the win here. Doesn't change the fact that coming in that 7th spot would be a huge boon for him.
Let's get a look here at Joseph Dupont if we can, see if my bet's going to pay out.
He's coming out of the quadruple apex. This is where he'll turn off. Is he going to hang a left?
I don't think he will.
No, he's going to stay out. Your confidence.
My confidence will not shy away, but I'm just hoping he realizes he's got to put on the reds at some point. I would hate to see him lose a race when he had a lead of 56 seconds because he forgot to put on the alternates.
Yeah, and that would be a DQ if he doesn't take them at some point.
And like you said earlier, if they're the aliens, Joseph and David, if they're the aliens of the series, those points are definitely going to hurt in the long run.
Yeah, he would come out of this with no points, actually, which that would hurt a lot because then he'd have to really fight McCoy the rest of the season to try and get those points back.
The rest of the season, he'd almost have to make a 2021 Joseph Newgarden-esque kind of run at the championship.
Almost.
I realize it is the first race, it is the first week. There's plenty of time to make up ground and championship points, but taking 0 points as someone who should be taking maximum here in this first race would definitely be a stab.
Especially when he's been running as clean as he has been.
I agree. He is in traffic now. If he is going to pit at all in this race one more time, this would be the time to do so.
He's being held up by a blue flag now at this point, though. Not entirely sure what ARC's rules are on blue flags, whether they are compulsory or advisory. But gotta be frustrating.
He's gonna stay out again.
This is getting worse, actually, for Dupont at this point. He needs to come in pretty soon.
He's got about a minute gap now, too.
Yeah.
Oh man, the drama is all in these last 4 laps between Joseph Dupont and his own strategy.
No one else has anything to touch him. And as it stands, most likely, what the running order is now, you won't see it change before the end. David McCoy, no matter how many times he spins, as long as he can avoid a 17X, if Dupont does not come in for those reds, he will take the W. On 12 right now. Oh no! Dupont's gonna spin it out! Regains and drives on his way. But I feel as though that's your warning sign. That's when you gotta recognize it and be like, hey, I gotta come in now.
I think he's got to, man.
Oh, well, that just hooked. Looks like he locked him up a little bit as he started to bank left going into the turn. He is going to come in. There we go.
Now let's see if he puts on the alternates.
He almost certainly will. He only has 4 laps to go. Let's take a look at McCoy. How much time can he gain? He has gotten the notification.
You see that gap dwindling down here? This is going to be a fast stop. He's going to swap tires and he's going to get a splash of fuel.
Yes, he is in the alternates.
And he's quick out of the box.
He's out as well. How much time is that going to make up for David McCoy? Not enough, I don't think. Especially in the alternates on the side of Dupont.
If we could get that track map up so we can see this gap close down a little bit visually. It's going to be a little close. He's got comfortable room, though.
Yeah, we just saw David McCoy complete lap 28. And already out at the other side of the S's is Dupont. He's built up a huge lead at this point. He just needs to keep it. And McCoy, he's not going to be able to make up this ground. He is on old primaries. Dupont now on fresh alternates.
Dupont very well could catch the back of the field here, though. Hopefully he can stay clean through that. Well, I lost my bet tonight. I was 3 laps off my prediction of when Joseph Dupont would make his second stop and put himself on the alternate red tires.
We didn't bet anything, but I demand $50. Dupont, he's run a masterful strategy race here, combined with excellent driving. Didn't really have to fight McCoy for that position earlier either. McCoy just kind of ran it off.
I mean, he's just had a solid day, right? He really kept his nose clean, stayed out of trouble. He's had a few moments in traffic with some back markers. He's played the strategy right. I was a little worried there that he wasn't going to end up making that second stop for the red tires, but he ends up doing so and still maintains a very solid gap of about 27 seconds.
Yeah.
We got 2.5 laps to go here at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and it looks like Joseph Dupont is just going to run away with it cleanly.
Almost certainly. He doesn't even need to do too much here. He just needs to not spin.
Which sounds easy, but at Circuit of the Americas, it is not.
If any of you out there have booted up COTA in an IndyCar, you know that is much easier said than done. Especially around those treacherous S's. So hard to hit your marks lap after lap around this track.
And to add to that point about how difficult these cars are around COTA, these Dallara IR18s are not easy cars to drive on any road course with any sort of elevation change.
No, they're not designed to handle the dips and rises and falls, you know, that you would see in other more aerodynamically dependent open wheelers. I mean, sure, these are very aerodynamically adaptable cars, but they just don't have that same kind of heavy downforce that you'd see in other open wheel formulas like F1, Formula Renault, any of those.
Right, and the shorter wheelbase that the Indy cars have compared to that of the Formula One cars makes them a lot easier to snap, twist and turn a little bit. It's raw power.
As well as being about a foot and a half, you know, less wide. Don't quite have that same kind of wheelbase and that same kind of what's what I'm looking for here? Car footprint on the track. There we go.
Right, I mean, their footprint just ends up resulting in a little less stable of a car. McCoy up into 1.
I think McCoy has recognized at this point that he's not going to be able to make up the ground to Dupont unless Dupont really wipes it. And even then, there's nothing he's going to be able to do to improve his situation.
I agree with you. I think we see McCoy lifting a little bit here. Very conservative in his gears. Just trying to finish this clean. Get those points in P2. Stay right ahead with Dupont in the championship to set himself up for a great season. With the way these guys drove today, these two guys up front, I think we're going to see a great battle here out these next couple of months.
Yeah,
all the difference was a couple little mistakes, minor mistakes from David McCoy.
And honestly, with the 3 or so mistakes we saw him make, the little spins, they probably added up to about the gap that you see there, about 31 seconds.
You're exactly right. I would say each of those minor spins cost him anywhere between 7 and 10 seconds, so it adds up. And I think those other couple seconds there, that hint of time came from his longer final stint.
Dupont, you just saw it, folks. He came around to take the white flag. Final lap of the race. He's got to just avoid wrecking himself on the number 5. That would have been a really crappy way to end the race.
But the white flag is out, and Dupont, with a 32-second gap behind to David McCoy, is going to cruise this one home, hopefully.
Just got out of the S's, the most technically difficult part of the track. Now just has to cruise it through the remaining couple difficult hairpins. He'll take our first win of the season in the first broadcasted iRacing race here on ARC. Big shout outs to all these drivers, though. They all did a very, very great race. Is he coming up on JA Games here, about to lap him? Who's that ahead of him? Number 13.
I'm not sure.
No, it's not JA Games. JA Games is number 84. He's only about 25 seconds off of lapping P4, but...
It is Comrade Question.
Yeah, that's who it is. He's not going to be able to get up to P4 to lap him, though. As he comes around turn 20 for the last time, he doesn't hook it. He's going to come around and take the checkered for the first win of the season for Joseph Dupont.
A rather convincing win for Joseph Dupont. Great way to start the season. But I think we'll see David McCoy bounce back here in the near future.
I certainly hope so. A couple inconsistencies here and there. He was definitely fast. We saw him fast in qualifying, just not quite able to keep his car on the track for the entirety of the race. Unfortunate. Crosses the line in second. I don't think we're going to see any more position changes from here on out. No races to the line. Final podium spot looks like it's highly likely to be taken up by Matthew Rice as he enters the quadruple apex for the final time. Matthew Rice takes the final podium position. AA Games, the last one on the lead lap, comes around turn 20 for the last time to finish off his race. I believe Hallucinogen is still in the pit. Yes, he is. He might have been DQ'd after all. But it does look like that's all we're going to see here from the first race out of ARC this season. A great day at COTA, honestly. Won out by Joseph Dupont with a 34-second margin of victory over David McCoy. Just a couple little errors, honestly. That's all it took. Each one costing him about 7 to 10 seconds. That's about all it was.
And quite a rough day for this field of drivers here, with only 4 finishing on the lead lap. I think a lot of these guys will be quite thrilled to look ahead towards next Thursday at Daytona.
Yeah, Daytona Road Course. You were talking about that a little bit beforehand. You love that track.
Oh, that track is awesome, especially in these cars.
Well, it was built for such an open wheeler. As we are just now waiting on Joseph Dupont to join us in the broadcasting booth for a bit of an interview here, assuming he accepts. Once again, folks, we'd like to thank you very much for joining us here on Apollo Racing Club for our first race of Season 5 of IndyCar. In a moment, we will hopefully talk to our winner, but it appears as though he is nowhere to be found. Oh, sorry. It is Daytona Oval next week. Oh my, that's going to be a race. A lot of close action.
With the gap between the front and second row here today in qualifying, I'm quite interested to see how these guys shake it out in qualifying on an oval. We might have some dark horses here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we might see some people back in the field kind of come up and make their run on ovals. Dupont and McCoy are very clean on the road courses, but that's the thing about IndyCar. You got to be good at both to win the championship. All right, and it looks like we might not be able to get the interview that we were looking for. I believe Joseph is not in the chat at the moment. Oh, yeah, wait, never mind. Never mind, it looks like he is about to get into the chat, so just give us a second here, folks, and we will have an interview with Joseph Dupont for the end of the stream. David McCoy might hop in as well.
I look forward to talking to McCoy about what happened there with those few spins. See if he was getting a little too aggressive there on exit, or if those tires were really worn out and he just couldn't do much else about it.
As we said, sometimes it's all it really takes to lose out the race. Unfortunately, is to have that happen to you. So we do have David Mccoy in the chat. He is ready to go. David, great race today. How you feel? I mean, you guys were both seeming to be on about the same strategy up until right. It looked like you tried to undercut him for this for the second stop there. What was your fuel strategy going into today? Because it was a it looked like you were going to need 2 stops unless you really saved. So what exactly was your fuel strategy?
Yeah, that's right. It was borderline to be able to do a 1 stop. I had looked at my fuel consumption beforehand and always had planned on just going maximum pace and doing a 2 stop, and done some running on the primary tire, the alternate tires, and it seemed like they weren't going to be able to do much more than 6 laps. So for me, it was a choice, sort of somewhere do a 4, 5, 6 lap stint on the alts, something like that, and run the rest of the race on primaries. I was surprised when he didn't go for them on the second stint, and save them towards the end, and I figured that was my chance, that it was looking like it, but then just too many mistakes. And that was essentially that race done.
Yeah, and it did look, you had a couple mistakes and a little bit of a spin there. Were you just trying to push for the win, or what happened with those?
Yeah, exactly. I knew that since he was going to have tire advantage towards the end of the race, that I needed to push hard and get track position on him to try and disrupt him a little bit if I was going to hold that advantage to the end of the race. I felt like I could maintain pace with him once we got past lap 5, lap 6, and I got into more of a rhythm. But yeah, just pushing too hard on cold tires and spun it. And yeah, I was pretty much done at that point and figured, I'm going to drive the best race that I can and essentially just bank it on him making a mistake, which it didn't seem like he did. So, fair play to him. He drove a great race and deserves the win.
All right. Thank you, David. And we also have Matthew Rice in here, our P3 tonight. Matthew, great race to you as well.
Thank you. Yeah, my whole strategy was, after halfway through the first lap, I overcooked one of the turns, and MLG got past me. From there on out, I was just shooting for the 1 stopper. So I was fuel saving pretty much the entire race. And then the second stint, I was just keeping those tires, those alts, those delicate alts as pristine as I possibly could for that whole last stint.
Yeah, we were kind of remarking on that because we saw you do a massive overcut after the first stint and then just ride it out the rest of the way. So that wasn't the plan going into it?
Well, I knew that I could make the alts last an entire stint. But in all honesty, I kind of was assuming that I was a bit faster than MLG and James. That turned out to be not true. So then I had to go to the alternate strategy, which was fuel saving. Pretty much after that incident in the first lap where MLG got past me, I just settled in behind him and lifted and coasted on that back stretch the entire race.
I mean, hey, it did seem to work for you. I mean, you managed to save it out. How close were you on fuel at the end?
I still had half a lap of fuel at the end. It's one of those things where when you're driving and it's in race, it's always hard to tell. Like when it says there's 4 laps when it says you're on lap 28 and it says you have 4 laps of fuel remaining, it's hard to tell whether or not that's like, do I still have to go through lap 20? I don't know. Anyways, the point of the story is that I had plenty of fuel at the end, but I was always a little nervous about it. So much so that I never used any push to pass because I know that burns more fuel.
Well, great race to you tonight. Way to adapt to it as well after kind of having a bit of a hiccup. And yeah, great job to round out the podium tonight. Thank you very much for the interview as well, Matthew.
Thanks a lot.
And I believe, do we have any more ready to come in for the interview? I don't believe we ended up getting Joseph Dupont in here. So we'll have to talk with him next week about his win today. And yeah, I believe that's all we have to do to round out the podcast. The broadcast tonight. Will, thank you for joining me in the booth today.
Thank you very much, Keegan. It was a pleasure. Thank you to everyone watching for bearing with me. I apologize for my false prediction, but I guarantee you I'll hit a couple here in the next coming weeks. I've got to. This is what I do for a living, so I've got to get good at it, man.
Now, I always round out every single broadcast I do with where can the audience at home find you? Socials, Twitch if you have one, etc.
You can follow me on Twitch at Will the Dag. I just commented in the chat replying to Propane. And then if you'd like to follow my socials, see a little bit of IndyCar behind the scenes, a little bit of my personal, I guess, car scene life, you can follow me on Instagram at ZL_Will.
Well, I don't have an Instagram, but as for me, folks, you can catch me on my stream at twitch.tv/Gigabyte or on Twitter at Gigabyte as well. I am an RLCS caster outside of this, so you can catch me doing Rocket League streams. I also go and broadcast and commentate for minor league esports as well. So thank you all very much for joining us here for our first stream of the season for the Apollo Racing Club IndyCar Series. We will see you all next Thursday from Daytona International Speedway. Have a good one, everybody.